So today we start, once again, Food Freedom, the Final Frontier. And we'll start with the chapter, Discovering Your Why. The chapter starts with a quote, "Good health is the most precious thing, and the only thing, I think, that is worth owning." Wiley Brooks. The question of why is foundational in any significant life journey, and embarking on the Pranic path is no exception. It is vital to delve into your motivations, to scrutinize them, because this introspection serves as the bedrock of your entire experience on this path. The Pranic path is far from a casual undertaking. It is a profound transformation that challenges your whole system of body, mind, and spirit. Without a clear, deeply rooted purpose, the trials you will face may seem insurmountable. When you ask yourself, why do I want to follow this path? You might be tempted to respond with reasons tied to external influences. Perhaps you admire someone who has embraced pranic living, or you are drawn to the seemingly supernatural abilities they exhibit. Maybe you're seeking healing from a chronic ailment or trying to escape the physical discomforts of an unhealthy lifestyle. However, if your reasons are primarily external or superficial, you are setting yourself up for constant questioning and potential frustration along the way. The truth is, the Pranic path demands authenticity. It requires that your motivation comes from a place of true self-discovery, of yearning to expand your light, not merely a desire to mimic someone else's journey or to achieve specific outcomes. If your goal isn't grounded in a deep inner calling, you may find the path too daunting, too long, or too much pressure to sustain. Consider this: if your desire to embark on this path is born from a genuine internal drive, then it is likely that life has already been subtly guiding you towards it. You didn't stumble upon this path by accident. Something within you has been burning for a change, for a different way of living that transcends the ordinary. For me, the longing for the Pranic path didn't emerge from a desire to emulate others. It was born from an intense dissatisfaction with my life as it was. I craved for something more, something different. Even before I knew that living without food was possible, I had no idea of the profound benefits, such as the increased energy, the mental clarity, and a deep sense of alignment that would come from this lifestyle. While others' experiences inspired me, the decision to walk this path ultimately came from a place within that craved transformation. It was a voice on the inside, an undeniable, intuitive whisper. Your motivation must be internal, rooted in something much deeper than the tangible benefits you might receive. It can't be solely about weight loss, health improvements, or even the desire to escape food-related discomforts. There needs to be a deep-seated desire within you to align more closely with your true self, to discover and embrace the essence of who you are beyond physical sustenance. I once coached a client who felt a strong pull towards the Pranic path, but was conflicted. Their motivation was driven by a desire to escape the discomforts associated with food, body weight, shape, and the unpleasant symptoms after eating. However, they also truly loved food and the sensory pleasures it provided. So much so that they would happily continue eating if it did not give them so many physical drawbacks. This internal conflict created a disconnect that made the journey incredibly challenging for them. They were seeking liberation from food without a clear, internally driven reason for doing so. their progress seemed stunted. This highlights a crucial point. The subconscious mind is incredibly powerful. It will always revert to its primary programming unless we fundamentally shift our self-image and internal beliefs. No matter how much you alter your physical habits, if your mind is misaligned with your goals, the old patterns will eventually resurface. This is why it is essential to explore your motivations thoroughly. Take the time to sit down with a piece of paper and write out all the reasons this lifestyle appeals to you. Be brutally honest with yourself. Weed out the superficial reasons and dig deep to uncover the core of your motivation. Why do you truly want to live in a more pranic way? What deeper fulfillment are you seeking? What are the intrinsic values and desires that are driving you? By understanding and aligning with these deeper motivations, you will equip yourself with a reason strong enough to carry you through the inevitable trials and tribulations. Because make no mistake, challenges will arise. But if your why is rooted in a profound internal truth, you will have the resilience and determination to overcome them. You will find yourself transitioning from surviving on this path to thriving as you move closer to your authentic self. And this chapter ends with a quote from Miriam Patel. Miriam says, basically, you have to consider yourself just like a cocaine addict when you are trying to free yourself from food, because food will be just like cocaine for you on this path. I'm not saying food is bad, and I'm not saying you should hate food, not at all. Actually, I think a cocaine addict loves the cocaine, even when they have stopped having it. It's the same for us. We love food. I love my being. I love food. I love cooked food big time. But I love my health more. I love my happiness more. I love when I am active. I love being in a level of energy where I can really embody the best version I know I can be. When I am in vitality and health and vibrant, I love feeling that way more than the feeling I have when I eat nice food. Miriam Patel. Breaking the wheel. I will not let those I have freed slide back into chains. Daenerys Targaryen. Perhaps you have seen or heard about this show called Game of Thrones. It is based on a book series by George R.R. Martin and has many different power dynamics. In the Game of Thrones series, the concept of breaking the wheel is introduced by a character named Daenerys Targaryen. The wheel metaphorically represents the cycle of power and oppression in the land of Westeros, where different noble houses, like the Lannisters, the Baratheons, the Starks, and the Targaryens, take turns ruling and subjugating the realm, with the common people suffering as a result. Each house's rise to power leads to the downfall of another, and the cycle repeats, perpetuating war, tyranny, and inequality. When Daenerys speaks of breaking the wheel, she expresses her desire to end this cycle of oppression and create a new order that fundamentally changes the system as a whole, instead of simply replacing one ruling family with another. Her goal is to establish a rule that is just, fair, and liberating for all, rather than perpetuating the same patterns of power and suffering that have defined Westeros for centuries. In the context of Breatharianism and Pranic living, the concept of breaking the wheel can be seen as a metaphor for transcending the deeply ingrained cycles of dependency on food, consumerism, and conventional norms of sustenance that society has perpetuated for centuries. Much like the noble houses in Game of Thrones who vie for power, humanity has long been caught in a cycle of consumption where our survival and well-being are closely tied to external sources of energy, primarily food. This cycle creates patterns of dependency, addiction, and often overconsumption, which can lead to physical, mental, and spiritual imbalances. The wheel here represents the collective belief that food is the sole source of nourishment, and the societal structures that reinforce this belief through agriculture, industry, and culture. To break the wheel, in this context, means to transcend these conventional dependencies and embrace a new way of living, pranic living, that taps into the abundant and universal energy that surrounds us. This lifestyle challenges the old paradigm by suggesting that the body can be nourished through alternative means, thereby reducing or even eliminating the need for physical food. Much like Daenerys' vision of creating a new world order, those on the pranic living path seek to redefine what it means to be nourished, to be healthy and alive. By breaking free from the traditional cycle of consumption, we aim to create a life that is more aligned with spiritual and physical and psychological constraints of food addiction. And furthermore, we aim to create a life that is more aligned with spiritual growth, inner freedom, and a deeper connection with the universe. This shift liberates us from the physical and psychological constraints of food addiction, and furthermore, has the potential to reduce the environmental impact of our food systems, offering a more regenerative and conscious way of living. However, just as Daenerys' quest to break the wheel was fraught with challenges and raised questions about the true nature of power and change, the path of pranic living also presents its own set of challenges. It requires a profound shift in mindset, discipline, and a willingness to step outside societal norms. In this way, breaking the wheel through pranic living is about dismantling the old paradigms of dependency and consumption and embracing a new cycle of freedom, regeneration, and spiritual evolution. Psycho-cyberpranic. It begins this chapter by a quote from Archilochus. We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. Archilochus. We touched on the importance of the mind before. Now let's dive a little bit deeper. Psycho-Cybernetics was a book I read years ago that changed my life in many ways. It was written by Dr. Maxwell Maltz and first published in 1960. It is a self-help book that explores the connection between the mind and the body, emphasizing the importance of self-image in achieving personal success and happiness. The book is grounded in the concept that the human mind operates like a cybernetic system, a feedback loop that seeks to achieve goals based on the image we hold of ourselves. Psycho-Cybernetics offers practical advice on how to reshape your self-image, harness the power of your subconscious mind, and achieve greater success and fulfillment in life. By understanding and applying the principles of cybernetics to the mind, you can take control of your mental mechanism and steer your life in the direction that you desire. The book ultimately showed me that I was the arbiter of my future. All I had to do was work on my self-image, and my subconscious mind would handle the rest. The principles of psycho-cybernetics can be closely aligned with the journey of Breatharianism and Pranic living. The reason for this is because our thoughts can attract energy as well as block energy. The success of living more on prana instead of physical food hinges greatly on a person's self-image and mindset. We briefly touched on self-image in the chapter where we discovered your why, so let's dig deeper. In his book, Maxwell Maltz emphasizes that our self-image, the mental picture that we hold of ourselves, dictates our capabilities and behaviors. For a person on the pranic path, this means that your self-image as a pranic being is crucial to your success. I truly believe that we are all breatharians. The difference is that there are those that know they are and those that do not. If a person sees themselves as limited by conventional needs, such as the need for food, this self-image can create mental and physical barriers to embracing pranic living fully. Conversely, if you were to cultivate a self-image that aligns with being sustained by prana, then your mind and body will work in harmony to support this reality. Just as Maltz suggests that seeing yourself as successful leads to success, seeing yourself as being nourished by prana will help manifest that reality. Maltz describes the brain as a goal-striving mechanism that moves towards whatever goal is impressed upon it by the self-image. On the pranic path, this can be seen as your mind's ability to align your body with the goal of living without physical food. When a practitioner deeply believes that they are being sustained by prana, their subconscious mind begins to subtly guide their body to function in accordance with that belief, gradually reducing physical hunger and fostering a deeper connection to pranic energy. So just like you can think and grow rich, you can absolutely think and grow pranic. Visualization plays a key role in both cybernetics, psycho-cybernetics, and pranic living. By mentally rehearsing the state of being nourished by prana, a person is able to strengthen their self-image as a pranic being. This visualization helps to reprogram the mind, making the concept of pranic living feel more natural and achievable. Over time, the body begins to respond to these mental rehearsals, aligning physical sensations with the mental image. This is exactly what happened to me the more that I listened to Jasmuheen, which many call the godmother of Breatharianism, and her pranic meditations. On the pranic path, challenges such as food cravings, social pressures, or self-doubt can arise. Dr. Maxwell Maltz's emphasis on forgiveness and letting go of the past is especially relevant here. If you start to struggle with setbacks, like indulging in food during your transition, it is important to forgive yourself and view these experiences as feedback rather than failure. There is no such thing as failure on the journey. Read that last sentence one more time. There is no such thing as failure on the journey. This mindset allows you to adjust your approach and continue progressing, rather than being stuck in guilt or negative self-perception. Trust me, it may feel bad when your body is detoxing all over again, so imagine how much worse feeling guilty and shameful will make the process. Dr. Maxwell Maltz's techniques for relaxation and stress reduction are also valuable for people on the pranic path. Stress and tension can disrupt our connection to pranic energy, leading to cravings or doubts. It is why I recommend people to be in a very supportive environment. By maintaining a calm and relaxed state, you enhance your ability to connect with prana and sustain your self-image as a pranic being. Just as Maltz views failure as feedback within the cybernetic system, so too can setbacks on the pranic path be seen as opportunities for learning and growth. Each challenge offers insights that can help refine your practice and strengthen your connection to prana. All in all, the concept of psycho-cybernetics offers valuable tools for us on the pranic path. It is a book I still recommend to people for that reason. By cultivating a positive self-image as a pranic being, visualizing success, forgiving yourself, and managing stress, a person is able to align their mind and body with the pranic state. This alignment allows you to further transcend traditional dependencies on food and move closer to the experience of being more food-free. Burning the boats. This chapter starts with a quote by T.S. Eliot. Only those who are willing, or only those who risk going too far, can possibly find out how far one can go. T.S. Eliot. The expression burning the boats or burning the ships has its roots in pivotal moments of history where military leaders employed an extreme strategy to ensure the commitment of their troops. These leaders would burn their own ships upon landing in enemy territory, symbolizing that retreat was not an option. Victory was the only path forward. This act was far from just a physical gesture. It was a powerful psychological message, both to the troops and to themselves, that success was the only outcome. The very destruction of their only means of escape forced every soldier to fully invest in the mission at hand, knowing there was no way to turn back. The most famous account of this tactic is attributed to Hernan Cortés, the Spanish conquistador who in 1519 ordered his men to burn the ships upon which they had arrived on the shores of what is now Mexico. This drastic measure was intended to remove any temptation of retreat and to galvanize his troops to conquer the Aztec Empire. With their only means of return destroyed, Cortés's men had no choice but to push forward with absolute resolve. The narrative of Cortés burning the ships has since transcended its historical context, evolving into a metaphor that represents making an irrevocable decision, one that eliminates all alternatives, compelling total focus and determination on the task at hand. Earlier instances of this strategy appear in ancient history, with figures like the Greek general Xerxes and the Roman general Julius Caesar also allegedly burning their ships to ensure that their troops would advance without hesitation. For these leaders, burning the boats was more than just a military strategy. It was about the psychology of commitment. When the option to retreat is removed, the mind must focus entirely on overcoming the challenges ahead. In modern times, burning the boats has become a popular metaphor in motivational context, where individuals are encouraged to fully commit to their goals by eliminating any fallback options. The concept speaks to the power of making a bold decision that forces one to muster all available resources, both external and internal, to achieve the desired outcome. This powerful concept can be directly applied to the Breatharian journey, serving as a metaphor for the kind of full-hearted commitment needed to transcend traditional dependencies on food and to embrace a lifestyle sustained by prana. Choosing to embark on the pranic path is not just a decision to explore a new diet or lifestyle. It is a profound commitment to rewire deeply ingrained beliefs and societal norms about food, nourishment, and survival. When you decide to walk the pranic path, you are essentially choosing to embark on a journey that defies conventional wisdom. Just as historical leaders burned their ships to ensure there was no turning back, a person on the pranic journey might burn their boats by making a resolute commitment to this new way of life. This act of commitment, whether symbolic or literal, is about creating an environment where reverting to old habits is completely off the table. It is a declaration to oneself and the universe that this is the only path, that prana is enough. The first step in this journey might involve a deep mental and emotional commitment to the path. This is where one decides once and for all that pranic living is the direction they wish to pursue. It involves a conscious choice to let go of old beliefs about food as a necessity and to fully embrace the possibility that the body can be nourished by prana. This mental shift is crucial because the pranic path is as much about mindset as it is about physical practice. On a more practical level, burning the boats might involve removing any crutches or safety nets that tether you to your old habits. This could mean giving away certain foods, fasting more regularly, or restructuring your environment to minimize exposure to food-related triggers. It might involve gradually distancing yourself from social situations where food is the focal point, thereby reducing the temptation to revert to old patterns. The idea is to create conditions where going back to the previous habits becomes increasingly difficult, if not impossible. For some, burning the boats might involve making a public declaration of their commitment to the pranic path by sharing their journey with friends, family, or a community. They create a form of accountability and social pressure that makes retreat more challenging. This public commitment can serve as a powerful motivator, as it involves both a devoted personal promise and a social contract with others who are now witnessing the journey with you. Personally, however, publicly declaring my goals on this path is my least favorite approach. One of my mentors gave me some advice that I took to heart. She said, "Don't tell people what you're going to do. Tell them what you've accomplished after you've done it." Either approach can help in different ways. Another way to solidify this commitment is by adopting practices and routines that reinforce your new identity as a pranic being. This might include engaging in regular meditation, energy work, and breath practices that deepen your connection to prana. By integrating these practices into your daily life, you begin now to build a lifestyle around pranic living. Over time, this new way of living becomes your default state, and the patterns and behaviors associated with conventional eating naturally begin to fall away. By burning the boats and choosing an environment with new options that set you up for success, you send a clear signal to yourself and to the universe that you are fully dedicated to this journey. The retreat option is removed and replaced, compelling you to find the strength, resilience, and creativity needed to overcome the challenges that inevitably arise. This kind of total commitment can be a profound catalyst for personal transformation, helping you to align more deeply with pranic energy, overcome obstacles, and realize your potential as a being sustained by the universal life force. I experienced this firsthand during my time at the monastery, where I unknowingly burned my boats when I committed to my first full month without solid food. I made a pact with myself and the universe to see this experience through, no matter what obstacles came my way. I was at a point in my life where I was willing to do whatever it took to change. And this unwavering commitment paid off in the end. However, I must also acknowledge that this approach, while effective, can be a bit intense and is not without its risks. Much like the soldiers who had no choice but to fight with everything they had, those on the pranic path, by burning the boats, empower themselves to approach the journey with full dedication and focus. However, it is essential to strike a balance. While full commitment is necessary, it is equally important to pace yourself and avoid pushing so hard that the journey becomes unbearable. Overextending yourself can lead to burnout and discourage you from continuing on the path. Remember that if this is truly what you want, the universe will conspire to provide you with the resources and the support needed to carry you through. The journey may be challenging as you continue to walk at your own pace, where you will find the strength to persevere and your divine path will reveal itself. All right. Process of food refinement. This chapter starts with an old Chinese proverb. It is better to take many small steps in the right direction than to take a great leap forward only to stumble backward. While the previous chapter emphasized the power of total commitment through burning the boats, it is important to recognize that the path to pranic living is one where patience and gradual steps often lead to a more sustainable and harmonious outcome. There is a reason for taking small, deliberate steps in this journey. Steps that respect the natural pace of transformation, mirroring how nature itself operates. When we observe nature, we see that it never rushes, yet everything is accomplished in its own divine timing. The seasons change, the plants grow, and life evolves without haste, following a rhythm that is both steady and unstoppable. This principle of nature is crucial to understand when undertaking a journey as profound as pranic living. One of my mentors, Elitam Elamin, often reminded us of the dangers of force. He would tell us that trying to force open a flower would only damage it. A metaphor for the delicate process of personal transformation. Just as a flower blooms in its own divine timing, so too does the body adapt to new ways of being. Elitam himself is a testament to this principle. His ability to live without food and water is the result of decades of practice, self-discovery, and gradual refinement. It is easy to look at his routine and forget the years of small incremental steps that brought him to where he is today. When I underwent my first breatharian process, it was a wonderful experience that catapulted me into a pranic state. It ultimately revealed to me the possibility of existing without the need for physical sustenance. However, what I didn't fully grasp at the time was the deep molecular level changes occurring within my body. The process was so rapid and radical that it outpaced my ability to fully understand or integrate these changes. My digestive system had undergone a dramatic transformation. My stomach felt as if it had shrunk, and certain organs seemed to have reconfigured themselves to support my new state of being. My body was adapting to pranic sustenance, yet my mind and emotions were still grappling with old habits and cravings. This misalignment led to a tumultuous period where I found myself developing eating disorders, something that I had never struggled with before. It was as if my body made a huge shift of recognizing food as nourishment to it now being a foreign substance, causing violent reactions whenever I tried to eat. This period was marked by a sense of disconnection and turmoil. I felt as though I was disrespecting the gift of harmony and bliss that I had been granted by the universe. The gift of living in perfect alignment with the energy of existence that had been overshadowed by the chaos of my mind and emotions, which were not yet ready to let go of old patterns. The lesson here is profound. If the mind and body are out of sync, the journey can become incredibly difficult, even after achieving what seems like a major breakthrough. This is why I caution against rushing into a pranic process. Such a radical shift can be overwhelming for both the body and the mind, especially if one has not followed a gradual path of food refinement and conscious preparation. The body, after all, is a physical vessel with its own rhythms and needs, and it takes time for it to adjust to new ways of being. The first reason for this is that your DNA hasn't yet fully attuned to a pranic lifestyle. Just as moving from an omnivorous diet to a vegetarian or vegan one brings genetic changes over time, transitioning to pranic living requires a similar period of adjustment. Consider the example of someone who has been vegan for many years. Their body cells, their very DNA, has adapted to this way of life. If they suddenly revert to consuming animal products, it can be dangerous, even deadly, because their body no longer recognizes this type of food as sustenance. Similarly, when I moved too quickly from pranic living back to solid food, without an appropriate transition, my body reacted with illness and discomfort. It was as if my body was asking, why? After all the work that we've done to purify, why would you put poison back inside? There were moments when I feared I might need emergency medical attention simply because I had eaten solid food. It felt as if there had been something lodged in my chest, and my body had forgotten how to break it down. My throat became super dry, I started sweating, my heart was palpitating fiercely like a drum. This experience taught me the importance of pacing yourself on the journey. A sudden radical change can create trauma in the body, leading to binge eating, eating disorders, and a profound sense of guilt and shame. Be aware of falling into the trap of blaming yourself. It is simply the result of pushing too hard, too fast. The more sustainable approach is to refine your diet gradually, allowing your DNA and your cells to adapt step by step. This method ensures that your body is genetically prepared for the pranic state, making the experience more stable and less likely to result in a harsh rebound. Meditation and energy work are invaluable tools in this process, helping to reprogram your cells on both a biological and energetic level, aligning your entire being with the pranic path. Another reason to avoid rushing is that once you are on the pranic path, there's no turning back. While this might sound like a contradiction to the previous chapter's message about burning the boats, it is important to understand that this is pretty much a one-way journey. You cannot simply revert to your old diet and lifestyle without consequences. Attempting to do so can result in disharmony, illness, and a deep sense of being out of alignment with your true self. Many spiritual teachers might suggest that you are free to eat whatever you want, but the reality is often more complex. Eventually, once your DNA has acclimated to this path, your energy levels are operating at a higher frequency, and your body will reject anything that is no longer in resonance with this state. It is not just about physical health. It is about staying true to the evolution of your soul. Returning to old habits can result in sickness, depression, and burnout as your soul resists the regression. This was my experience, and it is the experience of many others who have walked this path. The pranic journey is one of continual refinement and forward movement. Your body will naturally let you know when it is time to move on from certain foods or behaviors. It will exhibit symptoms that will signal it's ready to release what is no longer needed, guiding you gently and firmly towards your next stage of evolution. In the end, your body becomes your greatest ally on this journey. It will guide you, protect you, and hold you accountable as you progress along the pranic path. Remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. The goal is not to rush to the finish line, but to walk the path with patience, kindness, and awareness. Your body, mind, and spirit will all align in their own time, leading you to a state of harmony and balance that is sustainable and deeply fulfilling. So take your time, be gentle with yourself. Honor the natural pace of your food refinement, transformation, and remember that this is a journey above all, a journey that will unfold in its own perfect way, leading you ever closer to the truth of your own pranic nature. The Bigu state. This chapter begins with a quote from Lao Tzu, author of the Tao Te Ching. Those who flow as life flows know they need no other force. Lao Tzu. So we know how pranic living is all about tapping into life energy, prana, to nourish ourselves. It is this idea that you can reduce or even eliminate the need for physical food by living off the vital energy that is all around you. Well, The Bigu state from ancient Chinese philosophy is pretty similar in a lot of ways with its own unique twist. Bigu is a concept that comes from Taoism, where the goal is to sustain yourself without food. Much like in pranic living, the literal translation of Bigu is avoiding grains. But in practice, it means going beyond just avoiding grains and potentially living with no food at all. Instead of eating, people in the Bigu state believe they can nourish their bodies through qi, which is the Chinese term for life energy. It is believed that you can absorb qi directly from the environment through breathwork, meditation, and other spiritual practices. Sort of how we do qigong, which is equivalent to energy exercises. When you think about it, qi and prana are essentially talking about the same thing, a kind of universal life force. Both in Bigu and pranic living, the idea is that this life force can be harnessed to sustain your physical body, and it's considered a path to spiritual purification and growth. In the Bigu tradition, there's a strong focus on Taoist principles or Taoist practices like Qigong, specific breathing techniques that are designed to help you absorb and circulate qi within your body. There is also a historical context to Bigu. It's been around for centuries in China, often tied to the pursuit of immortality and longevity by Taoist monks and practitioners. Pranic living, at least today, tends to be more modern and global in its approach, being influenced by various traditions, whereas Bigu is rooted in one specific culture, Taoism. Another difference is that Bigu sometimes includes the use of certain herbal supplements believed to aid in absorbing qi, whereas pranic living focuses more on meditation, breathwork, and fasting, without necessarily incorporating herbal aids. Also, Bigu has this connection to Taoist philosophy, where the ultimate goal is to align with the Tao, the natural order of the universe. It is about harmonizing with the flow of nature and transcending the physical realm. Pranic living, while it shares the goal of transcending physical needs, is often more about self-empowerment and achieving a higher state of consciousness, without the specific philosophical underpinnings of Taoism. So in a nutshell, both Bigu and pranic living are about living on energy instead of food, and both see this as a way to enhance spiritual growth. Each has its own flavor, but at their core, they are exploring the same fascinating idea that there is much more to nourishment than just physical food. Down the rabbit hole. This chapter begins by a quote from Brandon Day. My question to everybody who thinks that they are not a breatharian is, have you ever tried going one day without breathing? Or even 1 hour? Brandon Day. People often consume dead animal flesh, believing they need the protein and amino acids it provides to sustain their bodies. Yet, if we pause to consider the source of these nutrients, we see that the animals themselves obtain their nourishment from plant life. This realization begs the question, why do we rely on a secondary source when we could receive these nourishments, these nutrients, more directly from plant-based foods? As we travel down the food chain, it becomes increasingly evident that it gets lighter and lighter, leading us to ask, where do fruits and vegetables get their sustenance from? The answer, of course, lies in the sun. The sun is the life-giving force that fuels all existence. It is the core source of energy for all living beings, driving the growth and vitality of plants, which in turn become the foundation of our nourishment. The sun provides us with the electrical component of energy, while the earth offers the magnetic counterpart. So the sun, the electrical, earth, the magnetic. Together, they create a harmonious balance that sustains life, When we ground ourselves by connecting our bare feet to the soil and exposing our skin to the sun's rays, we absorb this vital electromagnetic energy. This energy is the very essence of what we need to survive, as it is the fundamental force that sustains all life forms. As you delve deeper into this understanding, you now begin to see the importance of retracing your steps along the chain of consumption. By doing so, you can uncover the true source of the energy that sustains you, moving beyond the superficial layers of diet and nutrition to explore the deeper, more subtle forces at play. This realization is crucial to the journey of Breatharianism and the pursuit of food freedom. The concept of living without food and water may seem alien to many, but it is rooted in a profound understanding of energy and sustenance that transcends the conventional wisdom of diet. For a long time, this idea seemed far-fetched to me as well. I grew up following a standard North American diet, consuming all kinds of processed foods without questioning their impact on my body and mind. It wasn't until much later, in my late 20s, that I began to explore vegetarianism, then veganism, and eventually embarked on fasting. Each step along this path brought me closer to the realization that food was not the essential source of nourishment I had once believed it to be. I have an affirmation that I recite: the longer I fast, the longer I last. This simple statement encapsulates a profound truth. The more I surrender to the process, the clearer it becomes that I thrive without food. This truth is deeply personal, unique to each individual, and cannot be imposed by others. Whether or not a person chooses to eat again is a separate matter, driven by habitual patterns, cravings, and desires, rather than a genuine need for sustenance. Food, for many of us, is a source of comfort, a way to indulge in pleasures and to satisfy cravings. This is a perfect example of food consumption being a choice instead of a requirement for survival. It is important to disentangle the notion of survival from the act of eating and recognize that food in many ways is purely an experience that we have been conditioned to believe is necessary. This conditioning starts in childhood, as we grow up in a culture that revolves around habitual eating. We are not to blame for this. It is the way we have been raised, surrounded by and advertised to consume processed foods that contribute to sickness, disease, and chronic health issues. The revelation came when I began to understand the profound connection between my emotions, my feelings, and the food I was consuming. For decades, I never realized how much my anger, my depression, and sadness were influenced by my diet. This connection, once recognized, became a catalyst for deeper work. The work of clearing emotional energy and finding healthier ways to cope with my feelings. To truly sustain ourselves with light, we must address the emotional underpinnings that drive our relationship with food. As we begin to heal emotionally, we naturally seek out healthier routines and regimens. A daily practice of Qigong, yoga, or meditation can bring out drastic changes in your overall sense of well-being beyond just your physical health. Spending time in nature, feeling at ease, and aligning with your purpose or your dharma all contribute to a sense of fulfillment that transcends the need for food. This state of being, when you are in flow, fully engaged in your creative pursuits, nourishes you in ways that food cannot. Nurturing good relationships, surrounding yourself with loving, supporting people is another form of nourishment. When you recognize the divinity in others and in yourself, you tap into a source of energy that is deeply fulfilling. This too is a part of the process of purifying your emotional energy, removing the compulsions and desires that drive you to consume. Whether it be food, sexual encounters, material possessions, or even the approval of others. These habitual tendencies, which many of us struggle with, begin to lose their grip as we align more closely with our true nature. I've experienced all these tendencies in my life, and they drastically reduced when I let go of food. I recall reading a passage by Gandhi in one of his books where he speaks about the control that sense pleasures, particularly food, have over us. It is like it takes away from our freedom. He suggests that if you can resist the temptation of your taste buds, you can resist just about anything. Food, in this sense, is the gateway drug to all other sense pleasures. The energy that fuels our addictions and compulsions becomes almost non-existent when we stop feeding these desires, both literally and metaphorically. However, this shift does not happen overnight. It requires time, patience, and a steady commitment to moving in this direction. As you progress on this journey, you will notice that your relationship with food changes. The items that once tempted you lose their power, and you start to walk past them without a second thought. This is bigger than just willpower. It is about a fundamental shift in your energy and your consciousness. As you continue to refine your diet, moving towards lighter and lighter substances, you naturally drop the need for food. Much like a leaf falls from a tree, it becomes effortless, a natural progression towards lightness, as more and more pranic energy flows into your being. This increased flow of pranic energy brings with it numerous benefits. You start to sleep less, your creativity soars, and your sense of purpose becomes clearer than ever. People might ask, where is all that energy coming from? The answer lies in the breath, in the movement meditations, and in allowing the universe to breathe through you. Meditation becomes your generator, the firm foundation on which you build your life. It is the source of your energy, the key to sustaining yourself on this path. Staying connected to a like-minded community is also crucial. Establishing good relationships, friendships, and companionships with your tribe can be incredibly refreshing. We are the manifestation and creation of the elements, and when we come in contact with one another, we are connecting with all the elements within ourselves. We truly light each other up in profound ways, and it becomes increasingly apparent that we are never alone on this journey. In essence, the journey of breatharianism and food freedom is far from deprivation or denial. It is about reconnecting with the true sources of nourishment: sunlight, air, the earth, our emotions, our purpose, and our relationships. As we strip away the layers of conditioning and habitual consumption, we uncover a deeper truth that we are sustained by the very same energy that fuels all of life itself. And we'll go ahead and we'll stop right there. Blessings to you receiving. Blessings to you listening to this pranic reading. Much love as we've been proceeding. This has once again been readings from Food Freedom, The Final Frontier. So glad you're here. Much love. And for all things pranic living, if you'd like to learn more about the energy that's giving, even more and even beyond just fasting and longer lasting, for any questions that you might be asking, check out the website that we have for you. That website is called patreon.com/pranicpath, with tons of audios, tons of videos, tons of books, just like this one, for your reading, your viewing, and your auditory pleasure. Much love, my friend. It is always a treasure. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Keep the grateful, thankful spirit. And one more time, that website for you is patreon.com/pranicpath. May the rest of your life and the breath of your life Be the best of your life. My friend, this has been Jerome Shaw on the Pranic Pages. Much love.